It's time to rest again, rebels. To let the day go. To let your mind wander into a world of ideas and dreams and poetry. We're going to hear the story of a woman whose name was Marguerite Annie Johnson. But most people knew her as Maya Angelou. And Maya Angelou used her voice to recite beautiful verses and to stand up for herself. Before we get started, let's get settled in. Snuggle down. Close your eyes and begin to imagine. Let your mind go on a bedtime journey. When Maya Angelou was a young girl, she was afraid to speak. In fact, there was a period of time where she didn't speak for 5 years. But as she grew, she learned how to use her voice. She used that voice of hers to write volumes of stories and poems and recite them in front of thousands of people. But before she was a famous poet, she was a 16-year-old girl who wanted to be a streetcar conductor. Let's begin to imagine a soft, dawning light over a city just starting to wake up. In the early, gentle light, Maya was already up and reading. Maya loved to read, and as a young girl, she would read big stories. Stories that transported her. Stories that taught her things. Maya also spent much of her childhood in silence. Silently memorizing everything. Like the sensation of the ground on her bare feet. The tone of voices in her family. The full names of people she'd only met briefly. But she never uttered a word. Then, when she was 13 years old, Maya's teacher, Miss Flower, introduced her to poetry. She encouraged Maya to recite the poems aloud, to give them life, and Maya blossomed. She found her voice, and when she spoke, it was almost like she could speak directly into your heart. Maya lived in the hilly city of San Francisco and loved to travel across town on the streetcar. On cool mornings, clouds covered the city like a cozy blanket. Maya and her mother would wrap themselves in warm coats and scarves and board streetcar 798. She memorized the car's deep green panels, the cherry red windows chipped in the corners, and the single bright headlight in the front to guide the driver through the dense fog. Maya loved everything about the streetcar, but most of all, the conductors. She loved their dark blue fitted uniforms, smart little hats tilted to the side, and changer belts with the coin dispensers. 10 cents to ride," a conductor would say. A passenger would toss the conductor a quarter, and she'd pop back a nickel and a dime faster than they could draw back their hand. Maya thought it was like magic. She pictured herself in the sharp blue suit, tossing coins back and forth to the passengers, riding the rails with the wind looping through her hair. And one day she decided she wanted to work as a streetcar conductor, and she knew just how to make it happen. Just like that, 16-year-old Maya strolled right into the offices of Market Street Railway and said, "I would like to apply for the position of streetcar conductor." And they said, "No," and laughed at her. They wouldn't even give her an application. Maya was devastated. When she got home, she told her mother what happened. "Do you know why they wouldn't give you the job?" "Yes," said Maya. "Because I'm a Negro," which is what they called black people in those days. Then her mother said, "If you want that job, you go and get it." And she gave her very specific instructions. She told her to go back to that office with her biggest books and sit and read and sit until they changed their minds. And that's just what she did. Maya went back to the office and sat silently, reading her book in the lobby all morning. At lunchtime, she watched the secretaries scurry out of the office in one direction and the businessmen scuffle out in the other direction. Maya followed the businessmen. She followed them into a diner. They ordered a sandwich. So did she. They ordered coffee. So did she. When lunchtime was over, she followed them back into the office and sat in the lobby and read silently. Maya did this for 14 days. On the 14th day, Maya was in the middle of an old and worn book when she heard a voice say, "Miss." Maya looked up and saw a man standing in front of her. "What do you want?" he asked her. Maya closed her book, stood up, and spoke. "I want to be a streetcar conductor." "Why?" he asked. "Because I love the uniforms," she answered. "And I love people." And perhaps he saw in her eyes that it was more than that. Because, as simple as her request was, she had been diligent and patient to get what she wanted. And because she knew in her young heart that she deserved to be a streetcar conductor as much as anyone else. Maya got the job. And legend has it that in that moment, Maya Angelou became the first Black woman ever to become a streetcar conductor in San Francisco. So, at 4 a.m. every morning, before the sunrise, Maya would slip into the bath that her mother had drawn for her. Slip into her firmly pressed blue uniform and slip out the door down to East Bay Terminal at 1st Street and Mission to begin her route as a conductor. Maya's streetcar would travel down Market Street to Haight Street and wind along Lincoln Way to reach the beach, then cross Golden Gate Park. Along the way, passengers would board the streetcar, and Maya would read their faces and wonder where they were headed. She would shine her brightest smile and say, "Welcome, 10 cents to ride." And Maya was proud because she knew as long as she used her voice, she could go anywhere. Maya would sway back and forth at the rear of the trolley, waiting for the sun to rise. She'd read the sounds of the streetcar and memorize the clinks and clanks it would make when it was turning a corner or going up a steep hill. She'd read the curves of the hills, the colors of the flowers, the steam from the buildings, and the fog over the bay as it swirled and guided the water out into the ocean.
This podcast is a production of Rebel Girls. It's based on the book series Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. This story was produced by Katie Sprenger, with sound design and mixing by Mumble Media. It was written by Ashli St. Armant. Fact-checking by Joe Rhatigan. Narration by Ashli St. Armant. Our executive producer was Katie Sprenger. Thank you to the whole Rebel Girls team who make this podcast possible. Stay Rebel.